Hey, everybody, this is Pastor Rob. It's so good to see you. We have had so much going on here at New Heights throughout the summer and now into this fall. And I know we're all figuring out what to do during this time of transition. But the vision team and your church leadership have put together a mailing that we sent out this week. And so anybody who's on our mailing list either would have just gotten this or will get it soon. And it's just to update you on what's been happening. There's a lot that we want to make sure you're up to speed on and that we're transparent with what's going on. And so with me today is our vision team president, Gary Demashki. Gary, why don't you jumpstart us here? What do you got for us?
All right. Thanks, Pastor Rob. As Pastor Rob said, I'm Gary Demashki, the president of the congregation. And I just want to start off by saying it's a privilege to be able to bring some information to you at this point. As you all know, our financial health is an important part of being a sustainable faith community, both at the present time and also moving forward into the future. And you also know that as this pandemic began impacting the economy as a whole, churches also began to suffer and began to try to figure out how to proceed. Well, we investigated best practices as the vision team and as church leadership. And one piece of moving forward was taking advantage of the Payroll Protection Program, otherwise known as PPP. You might have heard or read about it on the news. And this is a loan that provides a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. Well, all said and done, we've taken advantage of it, and we have been receiving these PPP funds, and these dollars have really given us the flexibility to focus on a lot of the evolving aspects of our ministry. We're also praising God for the generosity, obviously, of our mission partners, and thank you so much for that. You have continued to provide so much generous financial support. But the end result is that we continue to be financially strong and well-positioned for the future. Pastor Rob?
Yeah, well, thank you, Gary. Those PPP dollars really have set us up well so that we have some flexibility. And as Gary mentioned, we've needed to make some changes as all of us are trying to figure out how to work in this, how to move forward during this time. And so we had a number of equipment upgrades that needed to happen in our AV booth so that we were able to live stream, which we hadn't been doing before all this happened. And as we've gone along, we've learned additional improvements that needed to be made. And now we continue to invest in AV gear, microphones and things that will set us up well for going forward. That also has included now some brand new lighting that we've gotten in the worship center. All told, there was quite a bit of dollars that were spent on that equipment, but the PPP loan has given us the flexibility to have room for those things. What's really helpful about those improvements, though, also is these are all things that we'll use in the new building. And so we've purchased things that we not only can we use now, but we'll use into the future. And so we're able to now continue moving forward with our live stream worship, but also we'll be ready to do in-person well. Something else around that, though, all of these purchases of equipment that can be used in the new building, when we come to the end of this year, we'll see where we stand financially. And if it makes sense for us, we could retroactively use funds from the building fund to cover those purchases. So we'll see where we sit, and the vision team will make their recommendation to the wider congregation, and that will be something we can take up at the annual meeting. Speaking of the new building, why don't you tell us some of the things that are evolving with that?
You bet. Thanks, Pastor Rob. Well, one of the things we recently talked about in Vision Team was, again, moving forward into the future and not letting the whole vision of a new building die at this point, but we're going to continue to follow that. And we're going to be bringing the architect and the builder back this fall for another look at maybe some building modifications that we've been talking about, and even to get a little better idea as to the cost of what a new building might be. And we're going to do this, specifically do this because we want to make sure we have things well in hand before we launch the next Shine Appeal.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that's just wise for just getting an updated numbers on everything, so we can really go into the next phase of the appeal with updated information and hopefully be able to get to building sooner rather than later. The other question I think that's been on everybody's mind is, when can we get back together in person? And so I wanted to speak to that today. First and foremost, we have recently adopted new protocols so that small groups and teams can now gather in person. And so if you're part of a small group, if you're part of a ministry team or an operational team, and you'd like to have an in-person gathering, please contact the church office and make those arrangements through the office. But groups of up to 10 can get together and have meetings following certain protocol. Of course, more importantly is, when can we get together in person for worship? And I guess I want to ask you for a moment, my friends, to please imagine something with me of what it would look like if we were to gather in person now, because we are held by the Dane County protocols. And so this is what that currently would look like. We're limited to 50 people in person at a time. If we were to gather in person in the worship center, we'd have to have you make reservations ahead of time, because we'd have to limit that number. Everyone would need to wear a mask, and we'd need to sit in a socially distanced way. And also, as we go in and out of the building, keep that social distancing. I think what's really important to understand is we would not be able to do any singing in the building given the current situation. And so gathering together would mean reservations, wearing masks, social distancing, and no singing. It would also make communion rather challenging as well. So given all of that, we feel like an in-person worship gathering during the current protocols would not be a positive worship experience. And so we're committed to continuing to provide you the best possible live stream experience that can be worshipful for you and for the whole congregation. And as the protocols change and as they are modified, we will look at when it makes sense to have a positive in-person opportunity. And of course, now what we'll be doing when we do go in person is we will continue to live stream, so people would have the option of being in person or live stream safely. So I know many of you want to hear from me, hey, we're going to get back together right away. We have to follow protocol, and we have to do we have to offer what will be most meaningful for people. And so live stream only right now remains the best option for that. And unfortunately, I can't provide you with a timetable of when we would go back to in person. So this is frustrating for all of us. I miss seeing you, and I know you miss seeing me. I will say, I want to encourage you, my friends, to consider a small group. Our small groups can meet in person or over Zoom. It is a chance to see one another face to face and be in community. But also remember that you are not limited from making your own arrangements to meet with friends. So call up your church friends, get together, whether that's outside or inside, whatever you're comfortable with. I've suggested in recent weeks, consider getting another family or two that you actually get together with for worship. Have your own home church together, or family faith night experience where you're in your own pod or bubble that you're comfortable with. You can do those things. So stick with us. We're continuing to move God's mission forward, and important things are happening. I want to thank you for your continued support. I know Gary has just a few other things to finish with. So Gary, back to you.
Thanks, Pastor Rob. You know, at this point, I'm sure you're aware that there's so much going on. There's so much going on behind the scenes, and we just wanted to make sure that everyone is up to speed as far as what's going on presently and what the plans are moving forward. We want to thank you also sincerely for your continued support. You know, you hear this often, your financial support is so important to us moving forward, and it is. And thank you so much for that. But more importantly, and I think most importantly, thank you so much for your prayers as we continue to grapple with just an ever-changing environment. Prayers are so important at this time. As we move forward, again, just want to let you know from the vision team and from the leadership team at New Heights that we wish God's blessings to everyone as we all continue to grapple with this crazy situation we find ourselves in. So God bless to everyone.